90-Day Fiancé. The Other Way featured Johny and Sumit starting a business and worrying about their financial investment. Johny calling Chloe, jealous, and fearing she's not ready to be married. And Manon and Anthony moving to France during the Season 7 episode that aired Monday night on TLC. Like 90-Day Fiancé, The Other Way's prior seasons, Season 7 will follow American citizens moving to or living in foreign countries for the sake of love and their future spouses and experiencing culture shock. 90-Day Fiancé. The Other Way's 7th season will feature 6 couples, including Jenny Slatin and Sumit Singh, who have previously starred on multiple seasons of 90-Day Fiancé, The Other Way, and Luke Berry and Madeleine Perez, who appeared on Season 4 of Love in Paradise. The new 4 couples are Greta from Oklahoma and Matthew from England, Anthony from California and Manon from France, Patia from Texas and Dylan from Tasmania, and Chloe from Massachusetts and Johny from Arab. Jenny admitted she felt like a child in Sumit's parents' home because they had gone through her belongings and removed her alcohol. Jenny said she was going to be on her best behavior and just deal with it. She also offered to cook the family dinner alongside Sumit's sister-in-law. Sumit's mother said she loved seeing both of her daughter-in-laws working in the kitchen. Sumit's parents apparently didn't like the taste of Jenny's pasta, but they still demanded she cook daily for the family. Sumit's mother planned to teach Jenny how to cook different dishes. Sumit then revealed that he and Jenny had decided to open a cafe and run the business in India together. It was going to be a family venture since everyone in Sumit's family loved to cook. Jenny told Sumit's parents that after a long day of work, she'd want to come home and rest. Jenny's mother vented about how Jenny needed to act like an adult and a responsible grown-up who could do chores upon returning home. Jenny said she'd be fine with cleaning, but not cooking, and she had no idea what the future was going to hold. Jenny and Sumit later headed to the cafe for their first day of work, but the place was empty and needed a lot of work. Jenny couldn't imagine the small space having a full kitchen and 6 people working inside. Jenny compared the cafe space to a hallway and wondered how they'd get a freezer and oven inside. But Sumit, although he knew it was going to take a lot of hard work, was optimistic about what they'd be able to accomplish. Once Sumit's family saw the cafe, they thought the place was way too small and they had bought the wrong place to start the cafe. They also didn't have outlets or running water. Sumit therefore began to worry about his financial investment and that the cafe was going to be a total failure. Luckily, Sumit had a plan B and told his family how there was a shop nearby that was empty. But Sumit wasn't sure if he could afford another investment. It would mean a huge loss on the first location. Johny, a 32-year-old tour guide from Oranjestad, Aruba, was shown swinging on ropes and diving into the ocean from his pirate ship. Johnny's pirate ship was clearly a party boat, with alcohol pouring all around him. Johny admitted temptation was high since he was around women who wanted to let loose and have fun all the time. He claimed he was crazy about Chloe. Johny said Chloe was gorgeous and he liked her personality, but he'd never leave Aruba for anybody. Johny was therefore looking forward to his long-distance romance with Chloe ended. But Johny explained how he worked for tips, and so it wasn't the best strategy to tell women on the boat that he has a girlfriend. He wished Chloe wasn't so jealous. Johny said he had given Chloe access to his cameras and social media accounts, and so there was nothing more he could do to prove himself as trustworthy. Chloe apparently watched him on his cameras all the time, which annoyed Johny. Johny, however, acknowledged how he had made some mistakes in the past. But Johny also once caught Chloe having a sexual conversation with another man. He claimed Chloe had lied to her about the extent of her relationship with this man, and so they decided to be exclusive and commit to each other. Johny told his coworker that he wanted to start a family with Chloe, and so he hoped she was ready for that. Since Chloe was only 23 years old, he wasn't entirely convinced she was ready to leave the party lifestyle behind her. I'm ready to get married and love Chloe so much. But I've only known Chloe for a year now. Don't want to waste time on a girl who's in vacation mode. Need somebody who is ready for stability. Johny explained to the cameras. If Chloe could prove she was serious about their future together, Johny said he'd definitely be ready to get down on one knee and propose marriage. Chloe, meanwhile, was excited to reunite with Johny, but she also admitted she was terrified to leave her mother, friends, and the only home she had ever known. Chloe's mother was planning to visit her in Aruba in about a week, but she had no idea that Johny had cheated on Chloe. Chloe wasn't sure if her mother would freak out upon hearing that news. "Don't want my mom to judge our relationship," Chloe explained to the cameras, adding how she didn't want her mother to have a negative view of her future husband. Chloe assured her mother that she knew what she was doing, but she confessed to the cameras that she really had no idea what she was doing. "Definitely a scary feeling moving my entire life to Aruba. No one is on board with this move, but I'm in love, and so I'm going to go and figure it out," Chloe said in a confessional. Chloe knew she was going to lack structure in Aruba, so she just hoped for the best, knowing she was going to be way out of her comfort zone. Anthony's sister was very upset about Manon and Anthony moving to France, and so she and Manon had gotten into an explosive argument at a family gathering. Anthony said Manon was justified in kicking his sister out of their house because everyone needed some time and space. Manon acknowledged selling the house and moving to France was a drastic decision, but Anthony pointed out how they needed to move for the sake of their finances and to essentially save their marriage before Mason and Anthony moved. Anthony's sister apologized to Manon, and so they were about to leave the country on a good note. Manon, however, was emotional and upset about leaving California, a place she truly loved and felt comfortable in. Luckily, Manon knew she and Anthony were in this together, and she was confident their relationship would deepen and prosper once they changed locations with their child. On the way to the airport, Manon and Anthony bickered once Anthony said he felt like he was a single parent in the household. Manon snapped at her husband for being mean, and she pointed out how that was the exact reason why she had agreed to move to France. Madeleine told the cameras how she wanted to buy an apartment with her own money as an investment for herself. Madeleine, who ran a beauty salon, planned to rent out the space and make money on it. Tonight on 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way Season 7, everything changed and no one saw it coming, from business disasters to jealousy explosions to emotional goodbyes. This episode proved that love alone is never enough when reality hits hard. Johny and Sumit thought they were finally entering a peaceful chapter of their marriage, but instead they found themselves standing inside what looked more like an empty hallway than a dream cafe. And as financial pressure started building, cracks began to show in ways they never expected. After years of fighting family disapproval, cultural clashes, and public criticism, Johny believed the hardest days were behind her, but living under Sumit's parents' roof quickly reminded her that the battle for acceptance was far from over. She admitted she felt like a child in their home, especially after discovering that her belongings had been searched and her alcohol removed without her permission. It wasn't just about privacy, it was about respect and dignity, and although she smiled through the tension, viewers could see the hurt in her eyes. Determined to keep peace, Johny promised she would be on her best behavior, even offering to cook dinner alongside Sumit's sister-in-law, hoping to prove she belonged. Sumit's mother seemed pleased watching both daughters-in-law working in the kitchen together, but the calm didn't last long. When Johny prepared pasta for the family, the reaction was far from encouraging. Although they criticized the taste, they still insisted she cook daily, and Sumit's mother made it clear that Johny needed proper training in Indian cuisine. For Johny, the pressure was overwhelming. She was trying to adjust to a new culture, a new family dynamic, and now a new expectation that she become the household cook every single day. After a long day of work, she simply wanted to rest, but that didn't sit well with Sumit's parents, who believed responsibility came before comfort. Johny said she would clean, but cooking daily felt like too much, and in that moment viewers saw the deep cultural divide that still separated this family. Meanwhile, Sumit decided it was time to shift focus toward their future, revealing a bold new plan. He and Johny were opening a cafe in India. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a family venture built on everyone's love for cooking and togetherness. But when Johny walked into the rented space, her optimism faded instantly. The cafe was tiny, so narrow it resembled a hallway, and she couldn't imagine fitting a full kitchen, freezer, oven, and 6 workers inside. The walls were bare, there were no proper outlets, no running water, and the reality of renovation costs began sinking in fast. Sumit tried to stay positive, insisting that hard work could transform the space into something beautiful, but even he couldn't ignore the obvious red flags. When his family visited the location, their reaction confirmed Johny's fears. They believed the place was far too small and possibly the wrong investment altogether. That's when panic started creeping into Sumit's voice. He admitted he was worried about the money already spent and the possibility that this dream could collapse before it even began. But Sumit wasn't ready to give up just yet. He revealed there was another shop nearby sitting empty, a potential plan B, yet pursuing it would mean accepting a major loss on the first property and risking even more financially for a couple already navigating emotional tension. The weight of financial Uncertainty could either bring them closer or tear them apart as Johny stood silently absorbing the criticism. One question lingered in the air: was this Café their path to independence, or the beginning of another painful setback? While business stress intensified in India, thousands of miles away in Aruba, temptation and trust were colliding in Chloe and Johny's relationship. Johny, a 32-year-old tour guide from Nonstop, was shown living what looked like a dream life, swinging from ropes, diving into turquoise waters, and hosting wild pirate ship parties filled with music, alcohol, and tourists ready to let loose, surrounded by women eager to flirt and have fun. Johny admitted temptation was everywhere, but he insisted he was crazy about Chloe. He called her gorgeous, praised her personality, and claimed he would never leave Aruba for anyone. Yet he also confessed he never tells women on the boat he has a girlfriend, because working for tips makes honesty complicated. That confession alone raised eyebrows. Johny complained Chloe was jealous, constantly checking his security cameras and social media accounts, which he had given her access to in order to prove his loyalty, but the constant surveillance annoyed him deeply. He admitted he had made mistakes in the past and that history was the reason Chloe struggled to trust him, adding fuel to the fire. Johny revealed he once caught Chloe having a sexual conversation with another man and accused her of lying about the extent of that relationship. According to Johny, that incident pushed them to become exclusive and commit fully to each other, but scars from that betrayal still lingered. As he spoke to cameras, Johny expressed his desire to start a family, saying he was ready for marriage and stability, but he wasn't sure Chloe was ready to leave her party lifestyle behind at just 23 years old. He made it clear he didn't want to waste time on someone stuck in vacation mode. He needed a partner ready for real-life responsibility. Meanwhile, Chloe prepared to leave Massachusetts for Aruba, filled with excitement and fear. She admitted she was terrified to leave her mother, friends, and the only home she had ever known, especially knowing that no one fully supported her decision. Her mother planned to visit soon, unaware that Johny had cheated in the past, and Chloe worried that revealing the truth might cause her mom to judge the relationship harshly on camera. Chloe confidently assured her mother she knew what she was doing, but in a confessional, she confessed she had no idea what she was doing at all. She acknowledged she would lack structure in Aruba and that moving meant stepping completely outside her comfort zone, yet love was pulling her forward. Whether that love would provide security or heartbreak remained uncertain. At the same time, another couple faced a major turning point as Manon and Anthony prepared to leave California for France. Their decision came after explosive tension with Anthony's sister, who had strongly opposed the move, leading to a heated argument at a family gathering. Anthony defended Manon, saying she was justified in asking his sister to leave their home because everyone needed space and boundaries. Eventually, his sister apologized, allowing them to depart on a better note. But emotions were still high. Manon was heartbroken to leave California, a place she loved deeply and where she felt safe, yet she believed moving was necessary for financial stability and to protect their marriage. Anthony insisted relocating would save them financially, but tension flared once more on the way to the airport when he confessed he sometimes felt like a single parent in their household. Manon snapped back, hurt by his words, and reminded him that his criticism was exactly why she had agreed to move, in hopes of rebuilding their partnership in a healthier environment. As they boarded their flight, viewers were left wondering if changing countries would truly fix their problems or simply relocate them, and just when it seemed like the episode couldn't add another layer, Madeleine revealed her independent ambitions, explaining she wanted to purchase an apartment with her own money as a personal investment. Running a beauty salon had given her financial confidence, and she planned to rent out the property for additional income, signaling that not every storyline this season was built solely on emotional dependency. Some were about empowerment and financial strategy. As this explosive episode came to a close, one theme stood above all: love may start the journey, but money, trust, and cultural expectations determine whether that journey survives. Johny and Sumit stand at the edge of financial risk. Chloe and Johny wrestle with jealousy and commitment. Manon and Anthony gamble their stability on relocation, and Madeleine charts her own path toward independence. The real question is who will rise stronger and who will realize that love alone cannot fix everything. Stay tuned, because if this episode proved anything, it's that the biggest tests are only just begin. Tonight, the tension rises even higher as reality begins to hit each couple in ways they never imagined. Johny wakes up the next morning already feeling the weight of expectation pressing down on her shoulders, because living in Sumit's parents' home is no longer just about respect. It has become a daily test of endurance. She walks into the kitchen knowing all eyes are on her, waiting to see if she will fail again at preparing traditional Indian dishes, and although she forces a smile, the pressure is obvious. Sumit's mother wastes no time correcting her technique. adjusting spices, criticizing texture, and reminding her that in this family cooking is not optional. It is a responsibility. Johny tries to explain that she comes from a different background where partnership means shared chores, not rigid roles, but her words seem to disappear in a room filled with cultural pride and unspoken judgment. Sumit stands awkwardly between the two most important women in his life, realizing that neutrality is no longer possible because silence now feels like betrayal. Meanwhile, the cafe renovation begins, and what seemed like a small project quickly turns into a financial nightmare. Contractors inform Sumit that installing proper plumbing alone will cost far more than expected, and electrical rewiring is mandatory before any equipment can be installed. Johny's face falls as numbers are discussed because every new estimate feels like another step closer to failure. She questions whether independence is worth risking the little stability they have, and for the first time, Sumit admits he may have rushed the decision out of desperation to prove to his family that he can provide. The emotional stakes grow heavier when his father quietly asks how much money has already been spent, forcing Sumit to reveal a figure that shocks everyone in the room. The possibility of losing that investment hangs in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Desperate to salvage the dream, Sumit revisits the idea of the second location, but when he meets the landlord, he learns the rent is significantly higher and a deposit would be required immediately, creating a painful dilemma: cut losses now or gamble even more on a better space. Johny fears that chasing perfection could destroy them financially, yet settling for less could doom the business before it opens. Their marriage, once tested by distance and secrecy, is now being tested by money and ambition, and viewers can see the strain in every exchanged glance. Across the ocean in Aruba, Chloe steps off the plane greeted by warm air, ocean breeze, and Johny's wide smile, but beneath the romantic reunion lies unresolved tension. Chloe notices how easily Johny slips into entertainer mode, greeting strangers with charm and confidence, and it reminds her of the insecurities she tried to ignore back home. When she visits the pirate ship for the first time, she watches women laughing around him, posing for selfies and leaning in close while he pours drinks, and although he insists it is harmless work, the environment feels like temptation. Wrapped in sunshine later that evening, Chloe confronts him about not mentioning their relationship openly to tourists, and Johny defends himself, saying tips pay the bills and honesty could cost income. The argument escalates as Chloe questions whether financial gain is worth emotional risk, and Johny accuses her of not understanding his reality in Aruba. Trust becomes the central battlefield, and every reassurance feels temporary at best. During a quiet beach conversation, Johny expresses again that he wants marriage and children soon, and he presses Chloe gently, asking if she truly sees herself settling down at 23. Chloe hesitates, not because she doesn't love him, but because the future feels overwhelming in a country where she has no friends, no job, and no safety net. She confesses she feels isolated already and worries that depending entirely on Johny could create resentment. The vulnerability in her voice contrasts sharply with the party atmosphere surrounding them, highlighting the emotional isolation she faces. Meanwhile, in France, Manon and Anthony arrive at their new home determined to reset their marriage, but exhaustion from travel quickly gives way to old patterns resurfacing. Anthony begins focusing on logistics, paperwork, budgeting, schooling for their child, while Manon struggles emotionally, missing California's familiarity and support system. She feels pressure to prove the move was worth it, especially after conflict with his sister. Yet Anthony's earlier comment about feeling like a single parent lingers painfully in her mind. During dinner, they attempt to discuss shared responsibilities calmly, but the conversation turns tense when Anthony implies that structure and discipline will be easier in France. Manon interprets that as criticism of her parenting, and frustration spills over, reminding viewers that changing geography does not automatically heal emotional wounds. However, there are glimpses of hope as they explore their neighborhood together, imagining a fresh start and a stronger partnership if they can learn to communicate without blame. Back in India, Johny finally reaches a breaking point after another long day at the cafe site covered in dust and uncertainty. She tells Sumit she feels overwhelmed juggling family expectations, business stress, and constant cultural adjustment, and for a moment her voice cracks, revealing fear she rarely shows on camera. Sumit listens more attentively than before, acknowledging that he has been so focused on proving himself that he neglected her emotional burden. He promises to set clearer boundaries with his parents, especially regarding daily cooking demands, and vows that the cafe decision will be mutual from now on. That conversation marks a subtle but significant shift in their dynamic, as they begin to operate more like partners than opponents in survival mode. Yet the financial question remains unanswered, and until a final decision is made, anxiety Chloe's mother arrives unexpectedly early, catching the couple off guard, and her protective instincts surface immediately as she questions Johny about his job lifestyle and intentions. Johny tries to present himself as committed and mature, but subtle tension reveals her skepticism. Chloe stands between them, desperate for approval from both sides, knowing that one wrong answer could intensify doubts about her move. The confrontation forces Johny to confront his past mistakes openly and admit that rebuilding trust requires more than camera access and sweet promises. It requires transparency and sacrifice. As the episode builds toward its climax, each couple stands at a crossroads. Jenny and Sumit must choose between financial risk and emotional security. Chloe and Johny must decide whether love can survive jealousy and lifestyle differences. Manon and Anthony must prove that relocation can truly strengthen rather than strain their bond, and Madeleine quietly continues planning her investment, reminding viewers that independence can be the strongest foundation of all. The overarching theme becomes impossible to ignore. Love may inspire bold moves, but sustainability demands compromise, communication, and courage. And as dramatic music swells and preview clips tease even bigger conflicts ahead, one thing is clear: the real tests have only just begun, because in The Other Way, sometimes the greatest challenge is not moving countries, but moving past the fears, insecurities, and expectations that travel with you. As the pressure intensifies across continents, each couple begins to realize that love alone cannot silence doubt. And with every passing day, hidden fears rise to the surface. In India, Jenny and Sumit reach a decisive moment when the contractor delivers the final renovation estimate, and the number is far beyond what they had prepared for, forcing Sumit to finally admit that if the cafe fails, they could lose nearly everything they have saved. Jenny's heart sinks, because this business was supposed to bring independence from his parents, yet it now threatens to tie them even tighter to family support if it collapses. That evening, tension explodes at dinner when Sumit's mother questions whether Jenny truly understands the responsibility of running a family business, implying that her hesitation signals weakness. Jenny, who has tried to remain respectful for so long, finally defends herself calmly but firmly, explaining that caution is not weakness and that she refuses to gamble blindly with their future. The room falls silent, because for the first time, she is not apologizing, she is asserting herself. Sumit watches this exchange, realizing that his wife is fighting not only for financial stability but for dignity and equal standing within the household. Later, alone